Kawasaki, the fastest bike nobody talks about. The green bikes are fast, that's not an opinion. It's a pattern that's repeated itself for multiple years across Supercross, Motocross, and the 250 class. And yet, when riders argue about what's dominant right now, Kawasaki's name is almost never the first one out of anyone's mouth. But somewhere between the history and the present, Kawasaki became the brand that serious riders respect and casual fans forget. Kawasaki is not a motorcycle company. That sounds wrong, but sit with it. Kawasaki Heavy Industries builds ships, trains, aerospace components, and gas turbines. Motorcycles are one division of a Japanese industrial conglomerate that has been engineering things that move, really move, since 1878, when Shozo Kawasaki opened his first shipyard in Tokyo. When Kawasaki decided to build performance motorcycles, they did not approach it as a lifestyle brand trying to find its identity. They approached it as engineers who build jet engines, deciding to make something smaller. The attitude was always, build the fastest thing, put it on the gate, let the results do the rest of the job. That philosophy produced some of the most iconic machines in dirt bike history. The KX500, a two-stroke that was genuinely, objectively, too much motorcycle for most human beings, became a legend not because Kawasaki marketed it as a legend, but because anyone who ever rode one remembered it for the rest of their life. The KX250 two-stroke through the late 80s and 90s was a benchmark. Green wasn't a lifestyle, it was a statement of mechanical intent. And that engineering-first identity, build it fast, trust the rider to find it, became both Kawasaki's greatest strength and the invisible ceiling on their cultural reach. Team Green is the program nobody talks about enough. Long before factory contracts, long before Monster Energy logos and stadium lights, Kawasaki built something quietly remarkable. Team Green, the amateur development program that has been identifying and cultivating talent at the grassroots level for decades. Loretta Lynn's Amateur National, the proving ground where every future professional has to come through, has been a Team Green operation in spirit for as long as most riders can remember. The program finds kids, puts factory support behind them before they're old enough to vote, and develops them through the junior ranks with a level of infrastructure that most amateur programs can't touch. The results are undeniable. Ricky Carmichael came through Team Green, James Stewart came through Team Green, Ryan Villopoto came through Team Green. If you wanted to build a list of the most talented American motocross riders of the last 30 years, you'd be writing a Team Green alumni roster. That's not coincidence, that's a system working exactly as designed, but here's the identity crisis buried inside that success. Team Green was built to develop champions. The brand never quite figured out how to become synonymous with champions. There's a difference between growing the fruit and being the tree everyone remembers. The color has a feeling that marketing didn't manufacture. Ask any rider who grew up watching Moto in the 90s and early 2000s what green meant, and they'll tell you without hesitation. Green was raw. Green was the bike that didn't ask for your comfort, didn't apologize for its power, and didn't come with a glossy lifestyle attached. While Honda built legacy and Yamaha built refinement and Suzuki built momentum, Kawasaki built machines that felt like they had something to prove. The KX line was always a little more aggressive, a little more demanding, a little more willing to punish a bad input. Riders who chose green chose it deliberately. That emotional authenticity, the idea that green chose you as much as you chose it, is the foundation of a powerful brand identity. It's the same kind of earned credibility that made certain boot brands the choice of serious tradespeople before lifestyle marketing ever touched them. You didn't wear those boots because of an advertisement. You wore them because they worked harder than anything else on the shelf. Kawasaki had that. The problem is that earned credibility, without the storytelling infrastructure to amplify it, stays inside the community that already knows. It doesn't travel. It doesn't recruit new believers. It preaches to the converted and stops at the fence line. Ricky Carmichael left, and Kawasaki let him. The first crack in the brand story happens here, and it's important to understand it accurately. Carmichael didn't leave Kawasaki. Kawasaki didn't make him a contract offer. He didn't choose Honda over green. He was handed to Honda by a brand that, when the most dominant motocross rider alive needed a competitive retention offer, stepped back instead of forward. Carmichael later said Team Kawasaki never proposed a contract to keep him. He had no choice but to find another door. He walked through Hondas, won everything there was to win, became the GOAT. And the letters HRC, not a Kawasaki acronym, became permanently attached to the greatest motocross career in history. For a brand whose identity is built on developing elite talent, letting the most elite talent in the sport's history walk out the door without a conversation is a foundational moment. Not a mistake that defines incompetence, but a choice that reveals the ceiling on Kawasaki's ambition as a racing brand. They were willing to build Carmichael. They were not willing to own him. James Stewart made it a pattern. Stewart grew up on green, not metaphorically, literally. Team Green found him as a child, developed him through every amateur class, watched him redefine what was physically possible on a motocross track. He turned pro in 2002 on a Kawasaki, and it was on that factory green machine, at the 2003 Budds Creek National, already a professional, that he unveiled the scrub technique to the world for the first time. The most significant riding innovation in the sport's modern era, the move that changed the athletic language of motocross forever, happened on a Kawasaki in front of a professional race crowd that didn't fully understand what it had just witnessed. He went on to become the most electrifying rider the sport had ever seen on green. He went 24-0 in the 2008 Outdoor Nationals on a Kawasaki, one of only 2 perfect seasons in the sport's entire recorded history, a feat matched only by Carmichael himself. And then Kawasaki didn't offer him a new contract. Stewart described it years later with the kind of clarity that cuts right through any attempt to complicate it. "I got fired without knowing I got fired. I didn't leave Kawasaki. They didn't rehire me." He went to Yamaha, won the 2009 Supercross title in his first season on blue. The most revolutionary rider the sport had ever seen, built his championship legacy somewhere other than the brand that built him. 2 generational talents, same program, same outcome. The pattern wasn't emerging, it was established. Villopoto was the exception that proved the rule. Ryan Villopoto is the moment Kawasaki did it right. They kept him, they built around him, they gave him the platform and the support and the factory backing to become what Team Green always had the raw material to produce. 4 consecutive AMA Supercross, 450 championships, 2011 through 2014, 2 AMA Motocross 450 titles. The sustained, unambiguous, nobody can argue with it dynasty that Kawasaki's talent pipeline had always been capable of producing. For 4 years, Green owned the room. Not one corner of it, the whole room. Villopoto under the lights in Anaheim was the event. The Monster Energy Kawasaki team was the benchmark every other program measured itself against. And crucially, it wasn't despite the KX450, it was because of it. The bike was right, the rider was right, the infrastructure was right, the whole machine, mechanical and organizational, pointed in the same direction at the same time. That window showed exactly who Kawasaki could be when everything aligned. The tragedy is that the window closed and the brand didn't have the next chapter already written. Then came Tomac, and the pattern found a new form. When Villopoto stepped back, Kawasaki went out and acquired Eli Tomac from Geico Honda for the 2016 season. This is an important distinction. Tomac wasn't a Team Green product. He wasn't developed in the Kawasaki pipeline. He arrived as a finished weapon, already proven, already fast enough to win a 450 championship on any bike on the gate. Kawasaki didn't build him, they bought him, and for 6 years, he delivered 4 championships, 60 wins, the most of any rider in that period. He was the face of the Green program through some of the most competitive seasons the class had ever seen. The championship that defines his legacy, his first Supercross title, the one that completed the career resume, came in 2020 on a Kawasaki. That part the script of "he had to leave to win" gets wrong, and it's worth being precise about. Tomac won on green, but then he left. And on Yamaha, the narrative rewrote itself anyway. Another title, another season of dominance. The full arc of a generational career, crystallizing somewhere other than green. What the Tomac chapter reveals isn't the same story as Carmichael and Stewart. It's a variation on the theme. Kawasaki couldn't grow the next dynasty from within its own pipeline after Villopoto, so it reached outside and bought one instead. That worked until it didn't. And when Tomac left, Kawasaki was back to the same question it has faced at every transition point for 30 years. Who's next, and will they stay long enough to finish what they start? What green actually is, and what it needs to become. The KX450 right now is a legitimate championship weapon. Smooth, planted, mechanically honest in a way that rewards commitment. The Pro Circuit 250 program is still producing elite talent on a conveyor belt that hasn't slowed in 30 years. The engineering heritage, the amateur infrastructure, the rider credibility that comes from being the program that built the sport's greatest riders, none of that is gone. It's all still there underneath the surface, waiting for the moment that pulls it back into the light. What Kawasaki needs isn't a faster bike. It isn't a new suspension package or a revised ECU map. It needs to decide at a brand level that the story it's been living quietly for 30 years deserves to be told loudly. The builder of champions needs to stop handing its work to competitors and start finishing what it starts. Not because the hardware can't do it, the hardware has always been able to do it. Because green was never just a color, it was always a standard. And somewhere along the way, the brand that set the standard forgot that owning it requires more than building to it. The next rider who comes through that system, the next Carmichael, the next Stewart, the next Villopoto, will either be the face of a Kawasaki renaissance or the next name on a list that already says too much about a brand that keeps almost getting it right. The gate is there, the bike is ready, the program is full. The only question left is whether Kawasaki finally decides to stay for the finish. Watch next, why champions keep choosing Suzuki.